Good afternoon, everyone. We are live. We have a special guest here, my fellow Irish Klansman, Sean Sullivan. Welcome, Sean.
Thank you, Dr. Chris. It's a pleasure to be on and to get to see you and talk with you again.
Yeah, I'm super excited for you to share your journey. Sean's grown a lot and developed some things here that are going to open up your mind to what should be important that you may not be aware of. He's an award-winning builder, stand-up dude, and one of my favorite quotes happens to be his, with iron sharpens iron. So maybe you can, let's kick it off with that one, and then we'll go back to growing up.
Okay, well, good. Yeah, of course, I can't take credit for that. It comes from Proverbs 27:17. Iron sharpens iron, just as one man sharpens another iron. I love that. I love that analogy because really, I feel like that's why we're here, is to help each other become better. As humans, we tend to just focus on the negative, and really what we want to do is just focus on the positive and help each other to be better than we were the day before.
So that's like helped shape the mindset of like how you interact with people.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, even like working with competitors, people that are, in that same competitive world with you, it's really important to look at them in a different light. Naturally, we want to look at them and figure out how we can beat them, just like in a race, but we're all in that same race and we're all trying to get there. And so being positive and bringing that person alongside you, a rising tide lifts all boats is another one of my favorite quotes. And so really that's kind of the idea behind building happier, healthier lives.
Did you always think like that, or you had to mature into that one about the competitors?
I had to mature into it for sure.
Well, I think back to myself and, what was condoned inside of you and encouraged on the athletic field, or, we've talked about powerlifting and how iron really sharpens iron. And then something happens in your 40s. I don't know what it is. I don't know when it happened, but you just stop caring about stuff that doesn't matter. But then you also start caring more about other people, and their own journey, because you realize you're just working on your own stuff, just like your competitor is what I've discovered.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And you realize that if someone had come alongside you and helped you, lifted you up, and been that iron sharpening iron, how much better, quicker it could have been for you. And so I'm really involved in several groups. Really, if you look industry wide, probably half a dozen different groups, but specifically to the industry, I'm in several different builder groups that do just that. And so I'm really enjoying mentoring and teaching other builders as well. That I'm also a teacher at North Carolina Builder Institute, or a professor, instructor is probably the best word, and teach continuing education. And so I love being able to help other builders across the state of North Carolina, increase their bottom line and their customer service.
I think it's good for the market too, because it gives people options, like what I do in my practice with structural corrections, a little different than what the community guy down the street does. But sometimes that's what people need. Like life, as you know, has different seasons and different times for different things.
It does for sure. And also I love helping shape the way that our industry works. And so coming up with something new and innovative, but through the use of Kaizen, so small incremental steps, you can come to larger innovative changes. And then that filters down through thought leadership, that filters down through your competitors and your local market and how things are done and how they can be done differently.
And for people that don't know, I grew up in the Northeast, and Sean's from this area, but the homes that they build down here stand the test of time. I've never seen constructs like this. The quality and the craftsmanship are outrageous, and they're all different, but the quality is there. And I only wish more homes across the country were built like that, because I saw what expensive homes look like in New Jersey, and then I see what you guys built here, and it blows them out of the water on every level. And we're going to get into that later, but I know family is something important to you. What was it like growing up as Sean Sullivan?
Yep. So actually, I was in a military household. My father was a fighter pilot in the Marine Corps. And so we moved all around the country and around the world, lived always on the coast because he had to be ready to fly out at any time. So Part of that was living in Japan 2 different times, and moving around really affected the way that I saw things and saw people. And so I was born in California. I graduated high school in South Carolina, graduated college in Rhode Island, and I tell everybody that I officially fit in nowhere but Asheville, North Carolina.
Well, and
Um,
that's we have a unique little melting pot here, right? And then you're able
yeah.
to bring that collaborative approach into it. Tell me a little bit about your early years of when you started being a builder. What was the driving force before that? Your dad set a standard of like how to conduct yourself as a man, and how did those lessons develop into what started out as your career and passion here?
Yeah, so I grew up doing carpentry. Went to college, got a degree in business management and marketing. Still didn't know what I wanted to do, but I was working as a resident assistant, an RA in college, and so we had to do some service work. And so I chose Habitat to do that, and I really developed a love for residential construction while working with Habitat. And so when I graduated, I moved back down south, landed in Asheville, North Carolina. Thank goodness. I'm very happy to live here and be here my whole adult life. But went to work for a custom home builder, and it was a really good opportunity. It was an eye-opening opportunity inside the office and also in the field.
So what lessons did you learn with that first builder?
Well, very good reputation, very well esteemed, excellent projects and clients. I learned a lot about culture, things that I wanted and things that maybe I didn't want or I wanted to improve in my own work environment. And so one day, the builder came in and he let everybody in the office go. And I was working in the office as an estimator at the time. He let everybody go. And I just remember it was lunchtime and I had a decision. What do I do here? This is a pivotal moment. Do I go home and figure out what I'm going to do, or do I just keep doing something? And so I made a couple calls and found a job site that needed some siding hung. And I went straight there and never went home. And that was 27 years ago.
Yeah. What made you fight for that? Was that just something from your family roots to know that it was something you were passionate about? What made you helped you in that decision?
I've always been, it's always been ingrained in me. If you want something, you got to go get it. And I remember when I was 10 years old, I just couldn't stand sitting around, and I wanted to have some spending money, and I didn't want to ask my parents for it. And so I just grabbed the lawnmower and went down the street, and we were on base, and there was a bunch of moms that their husbands were just deployed and they needed some yard work done because they were taking care of kids. So I just knocked on the door and said, "Hey, can I mow your yard?" And then I just went down the street until it was dark every day.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of how it started out. And then my first actual job where I received a paycheck was in a woodworking studio. I think I was 14 or 15 at the time. And in South Carolina, it is brutally hot, Beaufort, South Carolina. So we had to start work like at 5 a.m. and we would be in this metal building, where it just heated up and acted like an oven. So I think we got off at like 2:30 p.m. But yeah, my first official job was in a woodworking shop, and I worked from like 5 a.m. to 2:30 p.m. And it was a great experience.
Yeah, I think there's a big benefit from starting on the ground floor and going up. But I want all the millennials and younger kids that are listening to this to understand that no one's going to give it to you. You got to go out and get it. You can dream about it, you can think about it, but taking action is the difference. And Sean mentioned it's little incremental steps make the big change down the road. And I can't stress that enough, especially in times from adversity. Sean and I know each other personally, and you transitioned to working for yourself, right? And then you had a relationship dissolve, but then you were able to overcome that. A lot of dads and men or people that start businesses face some adversity. I admire how you rebuilt everything, because I've, in the process of doing that myself. Maybe if you don't mind, we can touch on that and share some wisdom for people that are afraid to take the leap, or, have some adversity and need a little encouragement to deal with that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you're never going to get anywhere just by sitting and worrying. You just have to do it. And so I love that expression, just do it. Don't try, do it. The whole concept of taking small steps forward, that word kaizen that I said earlier is a Japanese term for continuous improvement. And I'm reading the book called Kaizen right now. It's just a small little, it's really like a pocket guide, very easy read. But the gist of it is that we don't like change, because when we think of change, we think of something that is an abrupt change in our life that requires a lot of mental, commitment. And so the author, equates that with innovation. So to innovate something is to come up with like a whole new process whereby you're essentially like starting another business. Kaizen, you can have the same ultimate goal completed by implementing small steps, and you take it one little step at a time, so where your body and your mind don't even realize that it's a change. And so doing the course of that and incorporating that into your moral fabric, you're able to drastically improve your life from the beginning of the year to the end of the year without some huge innovative change. And so whether you're speaking about that professionally, I had a choice to go home or keep working, and I just decided it was easy, just keep working. Or if it's something personal, a marriage falls apart or a business relationship falls apart, you've just got to keep going. And so you just try to make the best decisions you can at the opportune time and don't look back.
Yeah, spoken like a true warrior of adversity right there. I appreciate you opening up and sharing that. One of my favorite movies is What About Bob? You ever see that one?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and they talk about baby steps, Dr. Leo Marvin. And it's so true, because in my business, and I'm sure yours, you're helping people shape what they want. They don't even know what they want. And that change is scary, and they think it needs to be this big thing. And I'm like, no, it's just little things consistently over time beats motivation all the time. And then it becomes more tangible, and you build up equity, like where you feel good about yourself, and then you can be more diverse in your next choices versus like if you think you got to do something big and then you don't do it, and it falls down. It's like, oh, see, it didn't work, right?
Right.
So thanks for mentioning that book. I hope people listen to that. You did mention, we're going to talk about your book in a second, but we're going from this siding job doing traditional carpentry, and now you've got this evolution of Livingstone Design and Build that is tearing up the world and winning awards and changing the market, and you're teaching people. How did that transition transpire for you?
Yeah. And let me just say that, owning your own business is not for everybody. And I wouldn't want to give a false assurance that it is. We use the assessment's predictive index, and on the predictive index assessment list, there's 18 different personalities. Mine is a strategist. I'm 3% of the population. And so the way that I think is linearly. So I see in the future and I work directly towards that goal. I try not to take any rabbit trails. I'm willing to take risk because I'm willing to work whatever it takes, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, whatever it is to solve a problem. A lot of people, most people, 97% of people probably are not. And so if you're not one of those people, there's no shame in working for somebody else. It's desirable to work for a team or work with a team that wants to work together in collaboration. So I just say that because anybody out there that is interested in working for themselves, it is a great opportunity to live in a free country and be able to do that. But at the same time, it's okay to acknowledge that you're not cut out for, creating a payroll every single week and making sure that everybody's obligations are met. Either way, you would want to create a happy, healthier culture. And so, going from siding work or subcontract work, which is what we did for a couple of years, we ultimately restructured. And so we had to learn from that. We were a partnership LLC. I realized that a partnership wasn't going to work. And so I formed an S Corp, and we started doing renovations, and then the renovations got bigger. And then I realized that I needed to get my license. because we were starting to do full basement and full house renovations and additions. And then we started working with an architect, and we were very blessed to have this great relationship with this architect who designed wonderful homes, very well designed with a structural engineer. And we really cut our teeth by working with that architect and that structural designer to start building homes. And then we got to the Great Recession, and it seemed like the whole system was really just kind of broken, meaning that we became one of 10 people bidding on a house. And I thought, how silly is this? What does bidding on a house even mean? Ultimately, a project's going to cost what it costs, whether it's change ordered or whether it's quoted from the beginning. And so we really decided we needed to reach out to the professionals that were in our world and create a design build process where we were all working for the benefit of the client. And so that 2010 time frame was a pivot point where we launched Laura's business. I think it was 2011 or 2012, to become an interior design firm that worked with our clients to help guide with selections and budget. We started partnering with multiple architects that specialized in different types of styles and communication and drawings. We partnered with real estate agents to help find the right land for our clients. And then ultimately, pairing a warranty program with our whole system that would just give client peace of mind years after we were gone.
Yeah, a lot to unpack there, and I'm glad that you mentioned that. I think in society today, there's a big push for equal outcome, but people need to realize there should be always across the board equal opportunity, but we can never assure equal outcome. And if you're not playing to your strengths, you're only fighting yourself and setting yourself up for failure. So, Sean mentioned Index. When I worked in medical device sales, they had this thing called the Gallup poll you had to take. And it's written by this guy, Tom Rath, and he had a book called Strength Finder 2.0. And you take it, and what it helps you focus on is your top 5 strengths. I think in America here, we're really good at focusing on what you stink at, which is not going to help you be successful in any way, shape, or form. Like Sean mentioned, he's an organizer, a strategist, that he can see things. Like if I was to put him in a different role, it would be a colossal failure for him, even though he's successful here. So I think that's what he's trying to explain to people, is to get around good people and identify your strengths, and then focus and grow from there. And the thing I like that you keep repeating and people aren't picking up on it is partnership and collaboration. Partnership, collaboration. You can't do this alone. It's not a dog eat dog world. It's about communicating with other people and making sure their needs are met. And that's what I really like what you're telling me here. Or when you had that tipping point in 2018, it sounds like you became more customer centric. You weren't just selling on price. You were like, hey, what's in the best interest of the customer here? Because if we're just going to lower the bottom line, something's going to suffer here, and they're not going to get what they want, and nobody's going to be happy.
Yeah, the lone sheep gets picked off, right? You've got to surround yourself with a community, and professionally as well as personally. Professionally, what we were discovering was somebody was overpaying for their land. They maybe looked out and saw a great view, but they didn't look down and see what the consequence of a steep slope was. They were hiring an architect and paying them whatever fee to design a project that maybe the architect wanted or maybe the homeowner wanted, but there was no correlation with budget. And I'm not saying that architects don't try to do that, but an architect is responsible for designing a home. A builder is responsible for building it. So the builder has all of the data for what it costs to build a home. And so we decided to start a builder-led design build firm, which is different than any other scenario. And so we consider the lot cost from the beginning. We consider the size of the home, the type of the structure. We do selections with the client during construction based upon averages that we have of our last 10 homes. We've created a software program called Ballpark UPE. And so we use that to plug in numbers so that hopefully, if we're doing our job right, by the time we're done with construction drawings, that project is within X percent of what the client's original budget was. And then we're able to, advocate or educate them on the selections they made to help, either program or budget.
Yeah,
Program is,
being that precise, what kind of impact has that had with the relationships with your clients?
well, so our clients are either program based or they're budget based. Those are the two decisions that need to be made in every project, and they're in every project. One will always supersede the other. So a client that is program based, that means they know what they want and they're willing to pay for it. Um, the one that is, budget based says, hey, here's my fixed budget and I have to stay within this. Both are fine. They're both going to have a program. Program is needs and wants. Budget is ultimately what you're willing to invest in the project. And so knowing up front if this person is program based or budget based, we will guide our decisions and our recommendations based upon which way they lean.
And now we go into this book that Sean wrote. I was able to get a copy. These are hard to find. Maybe we could help people at the end, make it a little easier, because it not only is this a book that designs the design and build problem. When I read this is actually like a relationship book, because it opens up talking about doing the needs assessments of the husband and the wife, and doing this exercise of what's important to you and how different it could be. Because if you just go to an architect and they design a house, there's a lot left on the table. And just reading that alone, I think people can learn a lot about themselves just by doing that exercise. Because you are building a home, and you're building a life together, right? These are lifestyle homes. It's not just matchsticks with a roof put on it. Maybe you could help share some stories that you've had that you shared in the book of what it's like when people find these things out about each other.
Yeah, our why, our mission is building happier, healthier lives, and that is not limited to just the book or just the construction project. As you said in the book, it's really about people's lives. It's their relations. At our companies, the Sullivan family of companies, we have identified that we have three audiences. We have our external clients; those are the ones that pay us. We have our internal clients; those are the ones that work on our team, the ones that actually do the projects. And then we have our community, and we decided that we needed to include our community in building happier, healthier lives as well. But the book lays out, 50 chapters or so about things that you should consider in designing and building and living in a home. And there's so many things to be aware of, literally thousands of decisions to make that people just don't know because that either they've never done it before or they don't do it for a living. And so, yeah, we tried to lay a bunch of those out in anecdotal ways. Those are all true stories. The names have been changed.
I love the
But
stories, by the way. I could only imagine. I just pictured you sitting in your desk, like with these two people, and seeing this all play out. It's just fascinating.
well, when you look back at your career as a professional, and I know you've got tons of stories and just interesting things that come up from one client to another. But then when you look past, 20, 25, 30 years, you go, wow, we had this experience or that experience. And a lot of them are enjoyable. And then, some of them you are learning experiences. And so you have to learn from your experiences. And our goal with Kaizen and our company, being a strategic anchor for our company, is how can we improve the process every single time so that we can have the best possible customer experience at the end. And so that's why we always end our projects with the phrase "no regrets." We don't want the client to move into their home and say, "I wish someone had told me." And I see, these new neighborhoods that we build in, and clients are repainting their house either right away because they weren't informed or advised on paint colors with the other selections, or it's 2 years down the road and they're having an issue with maintenance. We don't want regrets for our clients. So we've got to constantly improve the way that we think and improve the way that we operate.
Yeah, I love that. We kick it off with like the difference of owning your business and not. And I think that second step is knowing your strengths and not being afraid to fail. And I think that's one of the other catalysts to people not wanting to change. They're just like holding on to what they know so much, and they're just, all you gotta do is take a little sidestep, and there's like a whole group of people over there waiting to catch you when you land, but they just don't know, so they don't do anything, and then they kind of get trapped in that. And it sounds like you're able to help them answer these critical questions even before that they know it's going to come up, so that doesn't happen. Like, you have their best interests at heart.
The sidestep is a great analogy. Exactly. We've got 19 official meetings from start to finish of a home. And each meeting, we've got a meeting checklist and agenda, a pre and post meeting checklist for those checklists. And every time we come back from one, if there is something that needs to be fixed or updated, somebody wasn't informed of something, or we could have done a better job educating somebody, we come back and in the Kaizen way, we update the checklist to address it for next time.
Yeah, in Cairo school, they had this thing called fail, first attempt in learning, because it doesn't mean you can't be a doctor. You just got to pick up the pieces and keep on trucking. So I think that's great that you're always refining your processes, right? Because the customer is the best way for growth. Like, their customer feedback is how you shape your organization. You mentioned earlier in 2010, your now wife Laura, you guys kind of built something together a little bit. Maybe you could let people know what the Sullivan family's businesses have done and what you're trying to do.
Sure, I'd love to. So Livingstone was founded in 1997. 2 years before that, I was a different company that was doing subcontract work. It was a partnership company. So we operated for about 15 years as a traditional construction company. And during the Great Recession, like I mentioned earlier, we saw that the system was broken, and we wanted to basically recreate how construction was done, how design and build was done. And at the time, I'm not aware of any other design build firms in Asheville, certainly not any builder led design build firms. And now today, it sounds like everybody advertises themselves as a design build firm. The difference is that I literally spent 2 years researching architects and taking architects to lunch to find ones that wanted to work on behalf of the client's best interest. Not to say that architects don't do that inherently, but wanted to work in collaboration with a builder. And so the builder would advise on costs as the design was happening, so that we didn't get to the end and the whole house had to be redesigned again. So we then launched Ideology Interiors and Design to help facilitate selections so that we could make sure that we were going to meet these programs and budgets that our clients were interested in. And so we were taking care of the architecture thing. We were taking care of the interior design thing. The interior design thing led into some other things like interior drawings, which is kind of a separate service. It also led into finding greener products, and we can touch on that in a little bit. But working with real estate agents, so helping find land that was buildable rather than just buying any land, buying the land that best meets the client's program and budget, not just buying a steep lot, buying a below the road lot with a drop of 0 to 10 feet within the building footprint specifically. And then from there, we got into green building. And what happened is we had the opportunity to build a certified home, Energy Star and certified green. And we jumped on that opportunity because I said, why would we ever want to build the same house twice? We want to always improve. And so we had this opportunity in a community in Black Mountain called the Settings of Black Mountain. And we built the very first home in there, and we certified it green.
Well, we definitely want to touch on that. When Sean's been talking about is laying a strong foundation, with the collaborative care of the architect and builder being customer centric. And when him and I first sat down, I think it's outside of iron sharpens iron, what we really connected on was like, you built this beautiful structure, but then what do you put in this thing? Is it going to kill you? And I think Sean's going to start getting into what he loves and what's really made a change in the community. Both maybe we could touch on some building materials, and then also what Laura is doing with her materials. And then we'll get into the living space and the green building part. But I was astonished when, I came over and did the talk and I did some research. I learned so much just about glue and compressed woods and everything that people have no idea about and need to know this when they're going to thinking about developing a life for their family, maybe having a baby in there and an older parent that might be sensitive to these things. So teed it up for you.
Yeah, that's a perfect segue. So we built this home, and as soon as we finished it, the recession had hit, and so there was no sales team. Sales team dried up. We decided we would buy the house ourselves and use it as a model home. We did that, and lived there for 7 years. We built the house certified green, and at the time when the certification program first came out, we built it NC Green Built. There's a number of green building programs out there, so I wanted to specify that. At the time, there was no radon testing required for the certification. There is now. So when we went to sell the house 7 years later, the buyer asked for a radon test to be done. One was done, and it came back with a dangerously high level of radon. It came in at 14 picoliters, and at 4, the federal government says that it needs to be mediated. And so Laura and I just sat back and looked at each other, and we thought, wow, we don't know what we don't know. We built a very energy efficient house. We built a high quality house. We followed specifications and selections, but we didn't realize that there are things that are outside of our control that we need to start paying attention to. One of those are site related circumstances like radon. Radon is a breakdown of gas it's the breakdown of granite, which is ultimately releasing uranium. It's releasing gas up into a gas product up into the house. And you can't test for that until the house is completely sealed up. So unfortunately, you have to build the whole house to then find out if you have radon gas or not. And if you do, then you have to put in a system. So now what we do is we put in a passive radon system from the very beginning when we're roughing out the slab, and we go ahead and pipe up, assuming that we're going to have radon gases. The other thing that we realized was that we wanted to deliver a home with no smell because we became very aware of the dangers of indoor air quality. We were building a super tight home, which was good for energy, but at the same time, we were trapping those materials and those chemicals, like you said, that were off-gassing, both from construction and from selections. And so we worked really hard. We pivoted there. We worked really hard to write a specification for every single product or every single line item that goes into a house. So when someone says, hey, Sean, what am I getting for my money? I can point them to a document that says this is exactly what we're going to be putting into your house. We discovered that there were some really bad subjects that went into a house. The biggest one was cabinets. They're the biggest polluter for off-gassing. So cabinets are made of wood, mostly pressed wood, and then it's got finishes on it. So think about this. The solid woods are natural, right? They're not going to off-gas. A tree's not going to off-gas. But as soon as you take that tree and you turn it into plywood or chipboard, it now has to be held together with glues and adhesives and preservatives. And so now you're going to be smelling those glues. Those are what are off-gassing. And so what we were trying to do was deliver a home with no smell. And we did that. But then what we realized, Dr. Chris, is that our clients were moving furniture into this tight house, and the furniture was off-gassing. And we thought, oh no, we designed green, we built green, but we failed to teach our clients to live green. And this is when we pivoted again, and we came up with the concept of whole living, which is designing green, building green, and teaching our clients to live green. And ultimately, this is what led us to open up the store Atelier Maison & Co., which is the third company in the brand of the Sullivan family of companies, to be able to complement through vertical integration and control the indoor air quality of a client's home.
And you didn't have to do any of this to build people homes, right?
No, this is all just Kaizen.
Yeah, well, I just want
small improvements.
People don't understand, like, the fact that you have the bandwidth to put a radon pipe in there when you don't have to, and the disaster that could cause at a closing for a home, and all the carrying costs for the builder and the bank loans that could fall through, and just utter disaster. So when people see developments that aren't done, that's the kind of stuff that happens. And that's what Sean's trying to prevent every step of the way. And I'm just grateful that there's someone out there that has people's best interest at heart. Maybe we can dig a little bit into what the off-gassing and what people can look for. Because, everyone thinks, oh, I'm just going to go to, I'll say the local hardware store, but now the local superstore, and just pick out some cabinets for the home versus what you guys are putting in for people.
Well, and to just give you a startling statistic on indoor air quality, for example, radon specifically is the #1 contributor to lung cancer after smoking. So it's possible that you never smoke a cigarette in your entire life and you come down with lung cancer because of your environmental conditions and you had no idea.
And you paid for it.
And you paid for it. So
Yeah.
now, if you pay an extra $400 or whatever, just a regular plumbing drop is with the plumber, he drops a pipe into your slab and runs it up through your roof, and it passively vents through your roof. Even if you come back under 4, it's still passively venting. If it comes in over the level of 4 picoliters, what happens is we just make it active by putting a fan in there. Now, the beauty of that, besides the fact that now, environmentally it's safe, is the aesthetics. If you ever had a radon system put on your home, it's a big, ugly pipe that runs through your wall. They have to drill your slab, creating concrete dust, which is bad for indoor air quality. They run the pipe outside. Then you've got this thing outside of your home, and then it runs up through your soffit. Well, if we passively put one in from the beginning, it just runs up through your walls and you never see it. So just a thing, it's not just form, it's also function. So I'd love to be able to complement both. But going back to your comment, I'm sorry, you have to redirect me, Chris.
Oh, it's okay. I've had another thing to add. That's probably the most important question that people never ask is like, is there a radon pipe on the slab? Like when they buy a home, like that, that should be asked.
Yeah, it should be asked, and then going into further into the chemicals, I think it was cabinets is what you were digging a little bit deeper on. Cabinets is the biggest polluter inside of a home. And so what we did is we started writing specifications for healthy cabinets, but we became disenchanted by not being able to fully confirm that the cabinet companies were providing what we were asking. And so we just started seeking out our own cabinet companies, and Ideology now sources cabinets and has a cabinet company where they control 100% of what goes into our clients' homes.
Yeah, I remember when I was doing the research for the talk, it was just there's different types of glues. Some are good for you and some are bad for you. And what Sean's saying that nobody was guaranteeing him which glues they were using in there, and still charging a higher price, without full disclosure. Is that what I'm understanding?
Yeah, and for consumers out there that want to do it themselves, you can totally do it. Look for Pure Bond glue. Pure Bond glue is a non-toxic glue that holds together building products. You can buy it over the shelf. You can also buy plywood that's built with Pure Bond glue. But in a quick, short summary of how to be able to do this for yourself, look for products that are Green Guard certified. That is a easy label that is put on products that are passing the California emission code. And the code is 01350. So it's California code 01350. That is their emission code. No one's going to remember that. So there's 2 titles, Green Guard certified or CARB 2 compliant. CARB stands for California Air Resource Board. CARB 2 compliant products or Green Guard certified products have been proven to be safe and healthy for indoor air environments.
Yeah, write that down, people. I think you have that information on your webpage too, right? Somewhere in your matrix.
We've got it on our website and also in the book that you referenced.
Yeah. Sean's developed some great resources so you could research it yourself. I love that he does that. You brought the furniture store on, and another untimely thing was you had this tipping point in 2010, and then you opened up a furniture store right as COVID happened, and I was like, I felt the pain for you. And not only did you open one, you decided to open two. So maybe you could tell people why you felt that was so important. Because, like, one thing that Sean and I connected on is I grew up with chronic asthma and allergies from a birth injury, and my parents smoked in the house, and like my mom kept the house clean, but there was still fumes in there, and it was just toxic for me, the humidifiers and all this stuff. And so I really resonated with this stuff because I would go to like an aunt's or uncle's house, and if they had a cat, I'd break out in hives. It depended on the house. They might have had radon in there, not knowing. I was just super sensitive because of what was going on in my body, and it made it uncomfortable to travel and go places because you just knew you're already suffering. Like, I don't want to suffer anymore going to someone's house that I care about, so it was just brutal. So the furniture piece and what we fill our home with won't kill us. Maybe you could share some of that journey of how you coupled that with what you and Laura are doing.
Yeah. And to give you an idea, cigarettes have 4,000 chemicals in them. So just imagine what's in a home. So we were witnessing that we had a breakdown here by designing green and building green, but not teaching our clients to live green. So we started teaching our clients to live green by paying attention to indoor air quality. And that means that after we deliver the home, everything that you bring into that house after the fact is now going to off-gas into your house. So when we talk about off-gassing, IAQ, indoor air quality, we're talking about the emittance of fumes from the product being made. That can be as little as 2 weeks, or it can be as long as 20 years. So the average glue that most builders use to glue down the plywood to the floor trusses so you don't have squeaks will off-gas 7 years. Well, the homeowner never asked for it. They're not even aware of it, but they're breathing that for the next, 6 years they live there. I've got a toolbox that was made in China, and I've kept it just to see how long it would off-gas, and it literally took 20 years.
Wow.
It's just recently stopped off-gassing. That's just to my smell. It might still be off-gassing if you tested the air, but 20 years. So if you buy antique furniture, for example, that's already done its off-gassing. But what we were discovering was clients were building new homes, they're buying new furniture. And so we started out by sourcing non-toxic and healthy furniture through Ideology Interiors and Design. And they still do that, by the way. They have their own accounts, and we're doing a great job of it. It was very difficult to find vendors that, number one, were interested in it, much less were versed in it and could explain it as part of their core mission. But we found at least a dozen brands. And so what we did is we introduced it to our clients, and they became so interested in it, and it became so popular with them, we really started to feel guilty and convicted that we had hundreds, if not 1,000 friends that were builders, designers, architects, and realtors all over the country that we've met at conferences through the NHB, through ASID, through, different organizations through the building industry and design industry and furniture industry that didn't have access to the same furniture we did. So we knew that the public would be interested, but we specifically opened Atelier Maison & Co. on Sweeten Creek Road, just outside Biltmore Village, so that builders, designers, architects, and realtors could all have access to the same healthy furniture for their clients.
Yeah, I encourage everybody to go check that out. It's a world-class facility. It's not just a sales showroom. It's an experience, and it's also a communal place, and it's designed that way, and they're willing to take you all the way to show you what they do with the wood, how things get repurposed from every level, from deliveries. People set up shop there to work for the day with their clients. You can go in there and have a cup of coffee, get questions, concerns answered, and get a good feel for what's going on. It's not just, come buy this green certified couch. It's a whole level experience for everybody to understand what's going on and have availability to that. So I admire you for that. And then you have the other store out in Cashiers.
Yeah. So we actually, about a year after we had launched this, we launched it in June. Actually, July 1st was our start date of 2020. So COVID had hit. As you mentioned earlier, it was a very painful opening for a new business. We've got 20,000 square feet of showroom here, and that's a lot of overhead to carry for a economy that has been shut down. But we're doing well now because our clients have found us and value what we do. But a tangent to that was a builder from Cashers and his designer wife had come down and discovered what we did, and they valued it and they wanted a resource up where they were. And so they were building a building that they wanted to lease to us that was right behind their office. And so we went up there and did the research and decided that we would go ahead and make the jump to offer those same furniture services in the Highlands Cashers area. And so that's how we had the Atelier showroom open up there.
Yeah, I had no idea when I moved here as a Yankee what Cashiers was about, and I'm like, why is Sean building a store out in Cashiers and middle of nowhere? People live seasonally, and then I recently went there in the spring, and it's an incredible place. There's killer waterfalls, and it's a beautiful place to be. I'm glad that you're there and serving those communities as well. When I was looking to buy a home, the green thing just kind of started, and you'll talk to some old school builders that will say, hey, we want the house built tight and air circulation this and greens leaking air out. Maybe you can talk about some of the stigmas and the differences of that so people can understand when they're actually reading that what is behind it, because there's depending on who you talk to, there's a mixed bag of that on the internet versus what's really going on.
Well, yeah, so building code introduced the energy code, and the energy code's goal is to make homes more energy efficient, right? And we want them more energy efficient. Why? Because the utility companies are being inundated with development and construction, and so they have to keep up, and they're always producing more utilities. And so it's totally understandable that the North Carolina Utilities Commission would create a mandate that by 2025, the utility companies would only produce X amount of utilities, knowing that we had so much growth coming. So what happened is the utilities companies came up with ways to incentivize builders and homeowners to build more energy efficient homes. Well, we as homeowners want to have more energy efficient homes so our utility costs are less. That's just a no-brainer. But also through the use of programs like Energy Star and EnergyStar.gov, we're able to get discounts on our utilities, some of our utilities with participating utility companies, and even get tax credits. So those are win-wins. But the consequence of building a super energy efficient home, which by the way is also going to be a super comfortable home because it's balanced and it's checked by an energy rater. But the consequence of that is now you're breathing everything that's inside that house because it's airtight. So Chris, you probably remember growing up in ranch homes like I did that had windows that were drafty, and you would open up your windows more. You were up in the Northeast. I lived in New England a couple times, and we didn't even have central heat or air up there. Now we keep our windows closed and we rely on central heat and air. Well, that means even more so that we're breathing whatever's in that house. So to answer your question on this one, when you build an Energy Star home, and I would recommend that you do get it certified, because otherwise you don't know that you're getting a certified home and that it's been done correctly, you would have to have some type of air exchange built in. There are two ways to do that. One is passively, and it's really done through typically like a common hall bathroom with a fan that's on a timer. And so that fan will run about 45 minutes on the hour, and that is expelling air. The problem is it's creating a negative airflow in your house, a negative draft. That's a very inexpensive way to do it, and it does exchange air. When you open up the outside doors, it is going to rush air in. The way to do it mechanically is going to cost you about $2,500, and that's by putting an energy recovery ventilator on your system, which mechanically exchanges fresh air with the old air inside of your house. And so that's the ideal way to be able to control fresh air coming into a very tight space.
So this is something that a typical HVAC unit would not have in your regular home.
No, it's definitely an upgrade, and not all mechanical contractors are qualified to put those in. They have to be certified Energy Star to be able to understand the pros and cons, the consequences of doing this type system, and so they have to be certified.
Yeah, I think you mentioned that earlier before the certification for the green built home as well. I guess people need to ask if who they're working with, if they're certified, or who actually does someone certify their work, or they need to be certified to do the work.
Well, there's the builder to begin with, and the builder, a lot of my builder friends tell their clients they build Energy Star, and then I ask what the HERS rating was. HERS rating is a home energy rating score. It's kind of like miles per gallon for a house. And they'll say, well, I didn't actually get it tested. Oh, so you mean you didn't actually certify the home? Well, the client needs to know that what is the HERS score of the house that you're building or you're buying? That's important. And if you don't have a HERS score, then it's not been rated. But then when it gets to the person that actually puts in the mechanical system, which is just one part of 5 parts of a green home, the mechanical system is very important because that's what's using the majority of your energy and is also contributing or helping to your indoor air quality. That provider also has to be certified. And you hire a third party, which is an energy rater, who will then perform tests, duct blaster and blower door test. They will do manual J calculations to make sure that the house is, from an engineering standpoint, operating the way it should be.
Yeah. So just putting a little checklist as we talk here to help everyone, including myself. We want to just ask for the radon pipe. We want to make sure we're putting the right materials in the house, both in the cabinets and the furniture, and even what Laura does, I think, is great, especially for someone like me with all of the materials on the drapery and the couches and everything like that being up to snuff. And then now you just mentioned there's 5 parts to a green certified home. One was a few mechanical things. What are the others?
Yeah. So again, there's different green programs, and so they're all going to vary a little bit. But basically, site is going to be one, water is going to be one, indoor air quality is going to be one, renewables is going to be one, and then recycling.
Correct.
So all of those things kind of play into a healthy home.
Yeah. And I think some of it gets touched on in the book as well, which is great. Not everyone can be programmed to come in and write the big check for the custom built home and experience. And we talked about this too, the more budget based, the aspire to be. Like I remember the first time I came to Asheville was to buy organic sheets. I couldn't afford an organic home, but I could afford what I could afford. What's some advice for people? We touched on it before, of things that the do-it-yourselfer can do. Through your experience of all these years, what's some things people could maybe do for themselves, or maybe want to save up a little money to get a professional to do that would help them get on their way?
Great question. And I list a lot of this in the book, building a quality custom home, which you can get from our website, livingstonedesignbuild.com. You can order a copy, and it really lays it out for anybody. And I actually have other builders that come up and they buy boxes of these books because they want their clients to read them before they break ground. But simple things, you've named several of them, which are super important. But thinking about like what's in your house right now. So let's just say that you're in an existing home and you say, how could I make my life more healthy now? Well, think about what you're spending the most time on. And for me, I would think most people it's going to be that mattress, right? Because for 8 hours a day, you're laying on this mattress that's touching your face. And, the other 8 hours you're up and about at work. And then the other 8 hours are, travel and recreational. So what is your mattress made of? I think that's super important. We sell organic mattresses here, and are they more expensive? Yes, of course they're more expensive. But if you were to think about like your most time on something, I think an organic mattress is probably one of the best things you could invest in. Another little anecdote that I've got that would be my next thing would be like your sofa. When I was setting up the accounts for our building here, the lady started asking me, she said, well, what's the business that you're opening? So I explained to her what we were going to be doing, and we were focused on indoor air quality. And she goes, oh, you're talking about my blue sofa. And I said, what do you mean? She said, well, my blue sofa is the nicest piece of furniture in the house. And I said, well, why is that? And she said, well, every night after dinner, my husband and two kids and I would sit on the blue sofa and we'd watch a television show. But every night after the television show, we all got up with a headache. And it wasn't long before we realized it was the chemicals in the sofa that were poisoning us. And so just thinking about the things that you surround yourself with is going to help you identify what those threats are. And then some of the easy, inexpensive, or free things to be able to offset those would be like houseplants. Houseplants will absorb that carbon dioxide and they will produce fresh oxygen for you. But if you do a quick Google search on indoor air quality houseplants, you'll find out that there are houseplants that will actually scrub chemicals out of the air for you. So for example, the snake plant or mother-in-law's tongue, I've got about 8 of those in my office right now. Those scrub all kinds of chemicals, including formaldehyde and benzene, which are 2 very common chemicals from the air.
Wow, that's important because formaldehyde is all over the place, and that makes you very, very sick. I can't underestimate the value of an organic bed. You'll sleep better. Sleep is so important. You know, we can go eons about beds and pillows and all that stuff, but I mean, Sean is dead on. That is where you spend most of your time, right? And that needs to be the most important room in your house for a variety of different reasons. And if you're going to be on it, that's a worthy investment because it's going to pay huge dividends over time. And you know, now that there's more beds on the market, there's different price points for what you're looking at. They're not as crazy as they used to be. He's got them in the showroom. You go lay down on them and see what they feel like. You're going to leave with one, I guarantee it, or start a savings account for one because you're like so important. I just want to close this up. You know, we started up talking with family, and you know, we talked about the integration of your awesome wife Laura, and I know recently your son was working with you for some, and you know, being a family with a man with strong family ties. What does it mean for you to not only work in collaboration with your competitors and your subcontractors, but your actual family and everything you do as you create this stuff?
Well, I don't know how successful I am at that. You probably have to interview them. Our oldest son is going into the ministry and taking a teaching job, teaching Bible in Concord Christian Academy in Knoxville. So anyways, that was his goal. He's getting his master's degree in divinity. But Laura and I have had to set up boundaries. And, you know, it would be a ruse to think that you're not going to talk about work at home. But at some point, we do just say, all right, let's cut off work and let's just focus on us now. It's really important that you do that. And I would recommend anybody do that in their professional world, especially entrepreneurs. You know, if you're trying to get ahead in the early years, you know, working night and day, that's probably going to be part of what comes with opening and owning a business. But after a certain period, you've got to find a healthy balance. And so I think recognizing and communicating well what those balances are is really important. And I think the last thing that I would mention is just today we're inundated with stimulation, whether it's the cell phone and calls, or it's texts, or it's emails, or it's, you know, social media. It's just a constant inundation of information. And so you've just got to be able to have some time where you just cut it all off and just have a balance.
Yeah, I think that's super important. And, you know, talking about information, we get all these pundits online talking about the grind and this and that and the other thing. And what you do is grind yourself into the ground so you don't even enjoy the fruits of your labor. And you got to cut it off at some point because it's almost like, you know, you love lifting weights and so do I, but I can get done in an hour what I used to do in high school in 2 or 3 because I don't talk.
That's right.
Look at the phone. I just get it done, right? We can compress our schedules. And I think no more than a lesson from my wrestling coach when he would tell me when I would be upset about losing. He's like, when I go home from a meeting, walk through the door, my wife has to ask me how it went. And I think that alludes to what you and Laura are trying to do, and everyone should do in their own relationships. It's like, leave that stuff at the door, people, and, you know, enjoy the relationships with the people that matter most to you.
Amen.
Just as much as I value the relationship with this man, Sean, I can't thank you enough for coming on. Got nothing but love for you. Keep on doing the good work, and we will be in touch soon. Everybody, this is a must-read book, not only for healthy living, but also relationships with yourself and the people you care about for your internal environment and your external environment. It's very well done. Thanks, Sean.
Thank you, Dr. Chris. I appreciate what you do for the community and helping us live happier, healthier lives through your fantastic chiropractic care.
Awesome. Iron sharpens iron all day.
That's it. Thank you.